For the eagle-eyed viewer out there, you may have noticed this box has a Dell logo on it. That's right, the large box sitting behind me is in fact the Dell Canvas. You can scour YouTube, I am the only person with this. If you have questions, I've got answers. Let's do an unboxing. So I'm going to take you off of here and explain why I have this. Dell contacted me and asked me if I fancied going out to California for the week later this month and joining them there and teaching a class at the field trip. Sounded amazing, and yes, I took them up on the offer. Yes, I will be doing it, and yes, I will be vlogging the entire thing from setting off from here, travelling down to London and getting on a plane, you know, doing the whole trip. And first things first, I know you're dying to see the canvas. I am too, believe me, it's in the same room as me. I'm dying to open that box, but let's get the studio ready. This is the Dell Precision 5520 workstation. In the videos that you've seen already of the Dell Canvas, a lot of the videos shown feature this workstation with the Dell Canvas. Right, that's the workstation set up. Literally took 2 minutes just to crack it out of the box. I love the just black packaging that this came in. I mentioned in one of my earlier videos that I thought the Dell logo on the canvas stood out a bit too much. That is how the Dell logo on the canvas for me should have been. Let's move on to what I know you really want to see. Let's crack this bad boy open. It's at this point you're wondering if this is actually all a hoax or not. I understand that. So this is it, the Dell Canvas. 2 USB 3 ports and a USB-C port and a headphone jack as well. If I come round, there's nothing on the other side, but over here on the far left you can see a USB-C, on the far right you can see the power cable, and in the middle you can see a mini display port and a HDMI. That's a small HDMI as well. Then on the top, if I bring back in the sheet, you can see there's actually some buttons right at the top. The buttons here are on off for the canvas. There's one that brings up a menu, and there's one that turns touch on and off. There's 2 places that the pen will actually magnetize to. If you wanted a direct size comparison with the Wacom Cintiq 27, there you go. You can see edge to edge that the Dell Canvas is actually a little bit wider. I've lined the screens up there because obviously they use the same size and the same resolution screen. They look pretty much identical. The Dell's bezel is wider and it has this thicker plastic trim. I can tell that the Dell is definitely a lot thinner than the Wacom, and it has a completely different setup in terms of what's on the side of it here. The legs, at first I thought they were quite flimsy, but they're actually, you can see I'm hitting that. I'm giving that a good whack. That's solid. That leg runs all the way back, you know. It's a one-piece leg, so actually I don't know what that's made out of, but it's just really solid, so I'm, yeah, happy with that. There were two mystery boxes. Mystery box 1, mystery box 2. Should we have a look? That one kind of rattles a little bit. That one doesn't. I'm going to go with the little one. There's no difference. I'm going to open them both, like one after the other. It's kind of a weird unboxing because I just want to get to it and you want me to get to it, so. Cleaning cloth. Power supply. That's the same power supply that is with the laptop, I think. Yeah, 130 watt. There you go. Empty box. Right, I can confirm something now that was a suspicion. I already knew this, but get rid of these little plastic bags. The Totem. The canvas that I have should be the canvas that ships. I know I have it early, but this should be the shippable version. This isn't a beta version or anything like that. As far as I'm aware, this is the version that's going to ship. Nothing should be different. There you go. That's the final Totem. But, just as in one of my previous videos, I did say mini Totem. How cool is that? So, there you go. I think we all know what's in that box. I'm just having a look at the label to see if there's anything on there that's, you know. So there's the pen. It's flat on one edge. The flatness kind of tapers off about here and it just goes into its cylindrical form. Has a double button here. Nothing on the end. No eraser, no clickable button. Tip in here is a solid plastic one. Balance wise, that feels good. Lengthwise, that's good. There's no battery, nothing to open up in this. Yep, all in all, I'm happy with that. That should just stick onto the canvas. Oh, yeah, that sticks onto the canvas. Big box. There's a lot in this box. USB-C. So I think there's every cable in there plus more than I need. here's something that's interesting. Hadn't seen this before, didn't know anything about this. There's H, B and B. So 3 different types of nibs in there. The nib puller that you might be used to seeing. All these different nibs. Nice array, we didn't know we were getting any of this. But yeah. All in a nice little handy pen jar. Cool. The good thing is this looks like if you haven't got USB-C on your machine, you're not forced to buy adapters because there are going to be cables in here for you as well. If you have got USB-C, then brilliant. They've got cables for you. So let's plug this in, see what it does. Okay, so right now you're probably just wanting to see this. This is awesome. Let's plug it in, get it working. I just want to see it working as well. Let's do that. As of yet, there's no instruction manual, so I'm kind of winging it, but I've set up enough devices over the years to kind of know what I'm doing. As far as I'm aware, this only needs the USB-C cable and also the power lead. There you go, the Dell Canvas. That looks quite good actually. Just looking at the colours on it, that looks amazingly vivid. Okay. The stylus feels quite nice. Everything about this, it's flat on one edge, so it can go down either side, and you can really feel how magnetized it is. It pulls itself right on there. And what you've been waiting to see, 1 totem, 2 totem. Right, so right now this is brightness, and I can press that down. Yep, go into my brightness. But this one doesn't have a clicker like this one does. So say for example, if I go into brightness here, it's actually that monitor that's getting lighter or darker. That's fine. I'll have to figure out how to change it over. Okay, I want to take a second here just to confirm something about the stylus. I'm currently using Adobe Photoshop. You may be able to tell that just from the areas around the screen here. But yeah, so I've opened up Photoshop. I'm using a pretty standard Adobe brush that's already built in, but this is one that supports the tilt. Now you can see the tilt preview up in the top left hand corner of the screen there, just peeking in. So yeah, we have a Dell stylus with Wacom technology that does support tilt. So the only difference between this stylus and the Wacom stylus is actually the fact that this one doesn't have an eraser on the end. So, you know, it's pretty good. And to say I don't use my eraser too often, a lot of people I know have said that they don't use it at all, so not a big problem. The great thing here as well, though, is that, you know, I can take the totem here and I can just rotate this and use it to skip back and forth through the undo redo stages. So while I'm working,
I don't have to necessarily flip that over and use an eraser. I can simply carry on at will and use this. Obviously, my drivers aren't quite working 100%, so it's a little bit fiddly for me at the moment because I'm still using beta drivers. But I'm pretty sure once they're in place, everything will be fine. So there you go. You can see me now skipping backwards and forwards through the undo states. So that might be a little bit better than having an eraser if you're one of those people who constantly draws a little bit and rubs out, draws a little bit, rubs out, draws a little bit, rubs out, like I know I can be. Let's move on to the parallax test. This one's really interesting. You know, this was something that I desperately wanted to know. And I think here within these first few strokes, we've actually got a shot from an angle we can see the parallax. That is what I'm calling minimal parallax. Wacom have used the term zero parallax. I would say this is the same as that. I just don't feel comfortable using the term zero parallax. But yeah, you could see from that angle how low the parallax was. I'm also going to show you it from a different angle just so you can kind of, see for yourself that there is a slight bit of parallax. But watch this at a slower speed, watch it at a faster speed, whichever you like. Zoom in, make this as big as you can. Watch this on your TV so you can see it really big. And you'll see that the parallax is really fine. And there we go, we've got the 3-finger undo as well. I'm using Sketchable at the moment. And so this parallax test I was pretty happy with. I was pretty blown away. That is, I'd say that's one of the best, if not the best, parallax I've seen on a device. So here we go from another angle. Remember, I haven't actually calibrated this device either. Software still in beta. I don't know if there will be ways to calibrate it, whether it's just automatically calibrated, but it looks amazing. In order to prepare for the field trip that Dell was sending me to, I had to create some illustrations that I could use and show and present in my lesson over there. So yeah, I basically sat down, cracked open Sketchable because it works really well with the Totems, and started to draw. Now I only had about a week to get, a few different ones done, as well as some other work that I still had on. But all in all, I felt perfectly at home straight away, and that was thanks to the Stylus. Now, we know already that the Stylus has Wacom technology built in, but it really does feel like a stylus that you're used to, especially if you're a Wacom user like I am. You get that sense of quality, the precision is there. If you're upgrading from a different brand of tablet, you're going to notice how superior this is. And if you're coming over from a Wacom stylus, then you'll recognize that superior level of quality as well straight away, and you'll feel really at home. And this is something that I think a lot of other tablet manufacturers and a lot of other stylus manufacturers have kind of really let themselves down on. But straight away with the Dell Canvas, I felt at home. The final illustration, this was the first one I'd ever done on the Dell Canvas. It's by no means a masterpiece, but I was really happy with it to say that it took about 2.5 hours.
What I said previously in my other videos, if you haven't seen those, go and check them out. I'm going to redact what I said previously about this device not being innovative, because I think the software that Dell have worked very, very hard, the software that they've put into this device, the fences and also the palettes. All of this comes together to create a very unique user experience. You know, whether you're an artist, whether you're a videographer, whether you're a musician, no matter what you're using this device for, I think this creates a very unique, customizable user experience. And I think altogether, I haven't seen this done before. So there's your innovation. And I don't think this was talked about enough previously. And I think all of those things, together with, you know, the two totems, I think once you see all of this together, once you get to grips with this, once you use this, I think there's your innovation. And I think that is quite beautiful.
So looking at the palettes for a second, you can see how customizable they are. This top one here is the Lawrence Can Draw palette, which I've just created, and it looks identical to the ones that are already done there, but it gives you plenty of options for, you know, adding in every kind of shortcut you want to adding in all manner of program elements. These icons I've actually dropped in myself from icon8.com, and you can use any image you want as an icon. It just works really well, and you know, it's pretty well thought out and fleshed out, and it's there, it works. You can also see here in the fences, you can see my file browser as well there, and that looks great. And on the other side, I've got some image references in a folder, and I can just see them all at once, just like looking through my my normal folders there. So when I'm drawing in the middle section, I've got everything I need either side of me. Now I want to show you the fence previews. Now I've got two screens up here, so I've got two boxes, the larger one being the 4K resolution monitor from the Dell Precision 5520 laptop, and the smaller one is obviously the Dell Canvas. You can see they're divided up into sections because of the fences. All I have to do is grab the top bar of Sketchable here, and I can tell it where I want it to go and on which screen. So I can say this section of this fence on that screen. There you go, it jumps straight away onto my laptop screen, and it's right in the center. And that's how you move things from one screen to another. So no more having to swap over to using your mouse or your trackpad or anything annoying like that. Dell have come up with a piece of software just for that, and from what I understand, this is going to remain purely on the canvas. Now it doesn't work with the panels because you don't need to move those around. You know, you only need those when you're working on the canvas. You know, any piece of software, etc., any folders, you can move those around happily, and it works really well. But like I say, I think this is going to be just on the canvas.
I'm pretty happy to say that I can put the rumours to bed about the Dell Canvas being just a repackaged Wacom Cintiq 27QHD. When you put these two items side by side, as I actually have, yeah, the screen resolution and the screen size might be the same. They might even look very much the same, but I think that's actually deliberate by Dell. You know, I think they're targeting the same audience, so yeah, they've gone with that. But Dell have actually managed to get a higher RGB on this than the Wacom Cintiq. Wacom have up their RGB since then. You know, you got to remember the Wacom Cintiq is actually a little bit older. You know, the Dell Canvas is newer technology. As I mentioned in my old video, might well be the case. And, you know, I think that is the case. The Dell Canvas is a much thinner device. Also, if you look at the ports in this, this has USB-C, this has two powered USB ports. You know, there's all kinds of things, you know. So this clearly isn't just a repackaged Wacom Cintiq. I think I can put that firmly bang.
I can say now that I know for a fact that the Dell Canvas is only going to work with Windows. It's not going to work with Mac. It doesn't work with Wacom drivers in that way. It will only work with Windows 10. So PC guys only. Sorry, Mac users, nothing I can do about that. However, when I spoke to Dell, they did say that that they expressed an interest in making this work for Apple. So maybe down the line, but certainly not when it launches. So really sorry about that, guys. Nothing I can do there, but at least that is another thing that I can tell you exclusively here on my channel, and that's another thing we can confirm before the launch of the Dell Canvas. So if you're a Mac user and you were really hyped up about this, well, now you know. If you're a PC user, it doesn't make any difference to you. Still can be a great device for you. You know, I think there are going to, I could see them doing it later down the line. I could really see Dell coming in and creating drivers to get this working. And I think it's all about the fact that the Totem works on the Windows Surface API for the dial. So I think that's the only thing that's stopping them. I think once they do their own version, figure things out a bit, I think they'll give it to Mac users as well. But on launch date, it's going to be Windows only. You heard that here. Another rumor that we've got to cross off the list here is the VESA adapter mount. This was actually on a spec sheet that I saw somewhere. So I don't know where this came from. I don't know what this is about, whether Dell originally intended to do this and just didn't do it, or whether maybe just the model that I have hasn't got it on. But I've been told this is the release model. So, as you can see here, I have marked out the mounting holes on the back of this unit. This is not standard 200 by 100 or 100 by 100. You are going to need some kind of a TV mount to use this if you want to use an Ergotron or an arm. I'm going to have to do some research into what kind of arm, what kind of bracket you can get. If you know anything about that, comment below. I will maybe do another video just about this once I've done a little bit of research.
Obviously, to make sure you get the full use out of the Dell Canvas, you want to make sure that you have a 2-monitor setup, including the Dell Canvas, which means a good secondary monitor. Here, I've got the Dell Canvas and the Wacom Cintiq, which is pretty cool, but I haven't yet plugged my Wacom Cintiq in, and I'm currently using just the Dell Canvas and the laptop monitor, which is fine. The laptop monitor is 4K, so that's awesome. But you know, it would be really cool to have a very large secondary monitor. You know, something 32 inches or above. I can't break that. You can see my fingers are actually going white at the tips. So obviously I am applying pressure. The nibs are changeable. There's a pen pot with nibs in. It's solid. There's no battery. You can't remove the ends. This is all rubberized. Solid. It's not too long in my hand. I made a lot of complaints about how cheap feeling the Apple Pencil was. So, you know, if I'm going to complain about that, I would say if I didn't like the feel of this. I actually really like this. You'll notice it's flat on one side because it's magnetized, so it can snap to the tablet. It actually snaps all around, but it snaps more over at the far ends. However, the flat edge doesn't go all the way to the end. It only goes to about this far down, and then it becomes fully rounded. That to me is better than Microsoft's pen, because I'm not feeling this horrible flat edge down here. I actually prefer the Wacom style of buttons as well that Microsoft used to use. Dell have chosen to go with that, and they're rubberized as well, so they feel really, really nice. This to me is actually one of the nicest styluses that I've ever worked with. I would like the eraser back, but I'm not overly married to that idea, so I have drawn with this and gone like that to flip it and then realised, oh no, never mind. But, you know, it's something you just have to get used to. So, realistically, it doesn't bother me. One thing they could do is add a third button. You know, give me a button down here. That would be better than a button on the end for an eraser. Years ago, Wacom had, and I think they still do, an airbrush with a jog wheel. That would be an interesting addition to this stylus. So, all in all, I think this is actually a really nice stylus. You can tell there's Wacom tech here. But, yeah, it is pretty beautiful. I won't lie, I think this is really well made. I think it's really nice. Yeah. So, that's it on the stylus. I will say that this device is actually great for drawing on. You know, the stylus is brilliant, and as long as you've got the right machine to go with it, the right computer to go with it, you know, as long as it's a Windows machine, obviously, you've got to be able to create some great artwork. So, because it's got a brilliant screen, because it's got a brilliant stylus, you're not going to have any problems. Just make sure that, you know, you're okay with drawing on a completely flat surface. The Dell Canvas is a great, solid machine. And if you're looking for a cheap alternative to something like the Wacom Cintiq 27, this might well be it. However, I would say that the user experience is completely different, so it might not be that cheap alternative. The build quality is excellent, so it certainly isn't just a cheaper device. You know, they'll have actually put in a lot of work to the user interface, to all the software elements to this, and it makes it a very different beast. Besides which, I'm not sure you can mount this on a VESA adapter and therefore on an Ergotron arm. So, it not coming with a stand, you're never going to be able to get it completely upright. It's always going to be either completely flat or on a slight angle, and I do mean slight. And if you have it on that slight angle, the totems, you know, they tend to move ever so slightly. I've been actually using this completely flat, and now that I have a nice ergonomic chair, I'm finding that, you know, okay to do. But I do find this a completely different user experience to the Wacom Cintiq. So I don't actually think this is a cheap alternative to the Wacom Cintiq like a lot of people have been saying. Just keep that in mind. If you've tried the Wacom Cintiq, then you'll know what I mean. If you haven't, and you know you wanted one but it was out your price range, you're never going to know the difference, and this might be it. This might be what you've been looking for. So I hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully I've answered a lot of your questions here. I know I've still got more questions, but I have only had this for a few days, and it's kind of like, I know you're going to ask more questions in the comments below, and the good thing is that even if I don't have all of the answers, I now have direct access to Dell, so I can go and ask them directly. You know, and that's really great, because we all want to know even more, and I'm about to find out even more just by working on this over the next coming weeks, and I'll be able to post more videos and tutorials on this as well. So it's kind of like, you know, I'll just be able to answer everything for you, before this device even gets released, before anybody else even gets to put up a single video on this. How cool is that? So ask away, make sure to subscribe so you know when the next video is out, turn on notifications, that's very important, so you know when that next video hits straight away, you don't have to come and search for it. Yeah, I will answer any and all comments, you know I always do. Feel free to ask anything you want, as long as it is on this topic, obviously. I will have more videos, more tutorials, more speed paintings, and more reviews for artists coming very, very shortly. Yeah, so I will see you soon. Stay tuned, especially for my vlog in California on this very subject.
Well, thanks for watching. Be sure to comment, like, and even subscribe to my channel, Lawrence Can Draw. And if you really did like what you saw here, you can see more of it on my website, lawrenceman.co.uk. I'll see you next time.